world that forgot about kids like him. Wallace was just trying to make it one day at a time. A corner boy caught between survival and conscience, between the life that he knew and the life he dreamed of. He wasn't the loudest or the toughest, but he felt everything. And in a game that's built on cold hearts and quick moves, Wallace's biggest strength was that he still had a soul. So Wallace is introduced in season 1 of The Wire as a 15-year-old drug dealer working in the low-rise projects, aka the Pit, under the Barksdale organization. He's playful, he's naive, smart, and full of humanity. He lives in a squatter house raising younger children, orphans of the drug war. And despite his environment, he still plays with his friends and genuinely he tries to be a caregiver to these kids.
Oh boy, come on, get up. School day, y'all gonna be late. Let's go, get up to school.
Get up.
Go, get up, come on, man.
Damn, Wall.
Damn well it's nothing. That happens like y'all don't go to school. Soon enough, they're gonna be calling around. All y'all gonna end up in foster care. Y'all want foster care? Let's climb your little black ass back in the beds then. Well, get out my way, man. Damn, too early for this shit. Nah, man, ain't getting no two. Come on, man. Some ain't greedy. Take your chip. Oh, come on, man. Take your juice. Come on, man.
Where am I?
Go show it, TT. Come on, man. Where's your book bag?
Teacher ain't giving no homework.
Now this scene here, as you saw here, almost silent in its moral clarity, is really its key to understanding Wallace. Because in a world that is filled with sociopaths and training, he's a caregiver, the only type of leader that The Wire actually shows that will not survive. So philosophically, Wallace's journey aligns with Black existentialism, which is the idea that Black individuals must grapple with existential freedom in a society that denies their full personhood. And it draws a lot from Franz Fanon, and we can say Wallace, he exists in a zone of non-being because he is aware of himself. He is aware of himself as a thinking, caring person, but the world that is around him does not acknowledge that humanity. And Fanon's insight is that I am not a slave to the slavery that dehumanized my ancestors. It is not with my soul that I espouse their despair. So Wallace, like Fanon, is trapped in an anti-black world that punishes any form of moral clarity or emotional vulnerability because his soul revolts, but the revolt is inward, it's quiet, and it's tragic.
That's him. You see? That's him right there. That's Omar's boy.
Now, his worldview, it's rooted in the ethics of care, which is a philosophical stance that is developed by thinkers like Carol Gilligan and Nell Noddings. And you see, this ethic, it places relationships, empathy, and responsibility over abstract rules or utilitarian outcomes. So Wallace, he chooses to care. He chooses to care even when it is dangerous. So he feeds the kids, he cries for Brandon, and he's even thinking about wanting to go back to school.
How long were you with Barksdale screwing the low rises?
With D'Angelo? Not long. He came down from the towers like the beginning of the summer. Before that, I worked for Ronnie Mo.
D'Angelo ever talk to you about what happened in the 221 building? With Poot getting shot? How about anything else like that?
Like what?
Killings, murders? You see anything about a girl getting shot in an apartment up on the east side?
Nah, D was good to me. He all right.
But D'Angelo, he was who you called that night when you saw the sticker boy at the Greeks, right?
Yeah, but he didn't go up there. It was mostly those Tower boys.
And Stringer. He said Stringer was in the truck. He called you over, asked you to point out the stick-up boy.
So Wallace's antithesis is not like a character such as like Bodie Broadus, but it's D'Angelo Barksdale. See, D'Angelo is a man who, while he is morally conflicted, he tries to adopt a stoic detachment to survive. See, D'Angelo, he suppresses his emotions. He doubts the system quietly, and he masks empathy with rationalization. So Wallace, he cannot detach because he doesn't perform emotional indifference because really his open moral distress is the exact opposite of stoic apatheia, which is known as the freedom from passion. So there's a scene here in the show where D'Angelo, he's trying to talk to Wallace in the pit. He's talking to him in the pit, and this is a scene here that I want to show you.
I'm saying, this here game, it ain't gonna work for you no more, man. You leaving, you stirred up some shit. You know what I'm saying? It ain't your fault or nothing.
Yo, D, look, I appreciate what you're trying to say and all, but I grew up in the course, all right? I've been with them niggas since shit forever. I guess it's a home, right?
You ain't hearing me, Wallace. You ain't hearing me. Anybody ask you whether you in this game, you tell them you in it for life. All right? You play it hard, you play it tight, and you make sure niggas know you gonna stand by your people. No loose talk, no second thoughts, and no snitching. Play it like that.
So the Barksdale drug empire, it operates like a sociological machine. So Wallace, despite his soul, is just a cog. So from a determinist perspective, such as like with Spinoza, with Marx and Foucault, Wallace's fate is inevitable. See, he's born into a social system with no viable exits because there are no real choices.
All cut up and shit. His insides was hanging out. It's fucked up, yo. I mean, damn.
Sometimes you gotta send a message, yo. I mean, yo, when you picked up that phone, what you think they was gonna do, huh? Shit, all that shit is in the game, man. You know that.
Yeah, like you and that girl, huh?
What girl?
The one in the apartment. The one you told us about, remember? I mean, I like what you said about all that killing, you know? Especially that part about how it ain't gotta be like that. Just sell the shit and move on.
Give me a ginger ale and get some for yourself. Yeah, I know, I remember that, but it ain't like that, is it?
Yeah, I know. I know it ain't. Thing about it was his eye. His eye was blown out. And the other one was open. And yo, dang, it fucks me up. It's like he's looking out, like he sees everything, you know?
Don't think about it.
I can't. Fuck.
Yo, let that shit go. Just let it go.
So Wallace's brief decision to become a state witness represents the philosophical moment of Praxis, when theory, which is his horror at Brandon's death, it becomes action, which that action is cooperating with the police. Praxis in Paulo Freire's terms, it requires a supportive structure. See, Wallace, he has none. See, he is abandoned by both systems. He's abandoned by law enforcement and abandoned by the Barksdale crew. And also we have Afro-Pessimists. So Afro-Pessimist theorists like Frank B. Wilderson III argue that black life in America is marked by social death, that black individuals are positioned structurally as fungible, violable, and disposable. See, Wallace, he embodies this thesis. See, he is used, he's betrayed, and he's discarded by every institution because by the drug game, he's used as a pawn. By the police, he's used as an informant. And by his own friends, he gets murdered by both Bodie and Poot. So Wallace's death isn't a glitch in the system. It's the system working exactly as intended.
Man, you's a weak ass nigga, man. You should have stayed down in the country, man.
Yo, I'm my niggas, yo.
You fucking brought this on yourself, man.
We boys.
You brought this on yourself.
Ain't gotta be like this, yo. We niggas, man, BC, remember that?
Come on. Wetting your fucking pants like you a little boy. Be a man. Stand up like a motherfucking man.
My niggas, yo.
Man, you said you was a fucking man. Stand up straight.
That's us, man.
Do it, goddammit, if you gonna...
Socrates once had said that the unexamined life is not worth living. Wallace examines and dies. And like Socrates, Wallace questions the world around him. He refuses to blindly obey, and he's punished by death. So his awakening is too fast. It's too early. It's too dangerous. And his crime is that he tried to be human. So when you think about Wallace, see Wallace, he wanted to go back to school. He wanted to learn, but The Wire shows how every institution, from the schools, the police, the family, and community, how they all fail him. So in an Aristotelian sense, Wallace could have been a moral actor, trained in virtue, but there is no teacher. So there are three scenes I do want to play that really overall that I want to really go through and really explain to really show this, to really fully explain this part in his philosophy. So here's the first scene right here. So here's the first scene.
Yo, Wallace.
What?
Yo, Wallace.
What?
What's this about here?
This one here. A bus traveling on Central Avenue begins its route by picking up 8 passengers. At the next stop, it picks up 4 more, and then additional 2 at the third stop while discharging 1. The next to last stop, 3 passengers get off the bus and another 2 get on. How many passengers are still on the bus when the last stop is reached? Just do it in your head.
8.
Damn, Sarah, look. Close your eyes. You work in the ground stash. 20 tall pigs. 2 fiends come up to you and ask for 2 each. Another one cops 3. Then Bodie hands you off 10 more. But some white guy rolls up in the car, waves you down, and pays for 8. How many vows you got left?
15.
How the fuck you able to keep the count right? You're not able to do the book problem here.
Count me wrong, then fuck you up.
So as you saw here in this first scene, so this is really, one scene here overall that really explains this part of his philosophy perfectly. And because see, Wallace's ability to help, so his ability to help the young child here isn't merely about math, but it's really a moment that reveals his intelligence and his empathy and his capacity for mentorship. Because at a deeper level, Wallace is the closest thing that the pit has to a teacher or even a role model. See, he embodies a tragic potential, a smart, caring kid that is trapped in an ecosystem that offers no viable pathway out. And his tutoring moment is tinged with quiet hope, because he's still a child, helping another child, but framed by the darkness of the environment around him. So Wallace's approach, it mimics formal education, but with a tragic twist that the only curriculum available is street logic. So he uses this drug game to teach math because that's the only economy that they know. Now, in another world, Wallace could have been a teacher. He could have been a community mentor. In this one, he's a corner boy translating the language of capitalism and survival into teachable moments for a younger generation without any hope of transcending it himself. And this moment with Wallace subtly illustrates the failure of traditional institutions, particularly the family, the schools, and the community structures, to provide moral or civic education. See, Wallace is essentially taking up a role that should belong to school teachers or parents, but in the absence of those institutions functioning effectively, the drug trade fills the void. So the moral education that should accompany intellectual learning is absent. Instead, the logic of profit, evasion, and violence reigns. So Wallace isn't teaching the kid here why it's wrong to be in the game or offering a path out. He's normalizing it through practicality. Because this isn't because he's immoral. It's because he's a child that is born into a system that has failed to give him or the younger kids any moral framework beyond what the streets offer. And the tragedy lies not in the lesson itself, but in the lack of alternative frames of reference. And also, the street corner. The street corner becomes the classroom because in Wallace's lesson, the kids they learn, because you see this kid learns basic arithmetic, but the real curriculum is street economics. It's counting money, inventory management, profit margins. So it's the perverse version of vocational training. The irony is that the drug game has more structure and clearer rules than the education system that these kids have access to. And this scene is David Simon's, I would say, his quiet indictment of systemic neglect. Because Wallace doesn't want to be a teacher of this curriculum. It's all he knows. And the kid that he tutors here isn't just learning math. He's learning, she's learning how to survive in a world where the legitimate routes to success they're closed. And finally, Wallace's decision to help, his gentle tone, and his patience with Sarah here, they stand in stark contrast to the callousness of other people around him, like Bodie, who often mocks or exerts dominance. See, Wallace, he's still clinging to a kind of innocence, a Latin conscience, and this small act of care is a moral flicker. But The Wire is all about the systems more than the individuals, and Wallace's moral instincts are not enough to shield him from the machinery that he's part of. So his brief role as a teacher, it foreshadows his eventual fate, betrayed and killed by the same system he was helping he was helping perpetuate. So his compassion becomes his vulnerability. And now let's go right here into the second scene rule here. So check this out.
Hey, yo, ho, ho, ho. Y'all niggas been burnt. Huh? Huh? That's what you got to say? Huh? This look like money, motherfucker? Money be green. Money feel like money. That shit look green to you?
Got a dead fucking president on it.
Nigga, I don't give a fuck about the president. That shit ain't money.
He ain't no president.
What you mean?
Hamilton? He ain't no president.
Nigga, is you crazy? Ain't no ugly ass white man get his face on no legal motherfucking tender sep he president. If this shit happen again, you off the money. You hear me? You ain't even gonna be serving no more. Your ass be out on the bottom end of Vine Street sucking on a 40 yelling 5-0. You hear me? Get the fuck out of here.
So in this scene right here, so Wallace's correction about Alexander Hamilton. So it's not really just a display of random trivia, as you saw in the scene here, but it's a flash of intellect. It's a sign that this young man, he has a mind that is sharpened by fragments of an education that he likely received from an underfunded and forgotten school system. The tragedy here is that the knowledge does nothing to elevate him or liberate him. Because see, his awareness of U.S. history, rather than lifting him out of poverty, is buried under a reality and where intellect is disconnected from upward mobility. See, Wallace, the key point is this: Wallace, he knows Hamilton. He knows that he was never a president, which means he was paying attention at some point in his education. But instead of being celebrated, that intelligence is irrelevant or even burdensome in the logic of the streets. And this is emblematic of Paulo Freire's concept in the pedagogy of the oppressed, where education is supposed to be practice is supposed to be a practice of freedom. Yet Wallace's context has turned it into a pointless exercise. So what good is knowledge when the only jobs available are on the corner? And then we look at D'Angelo. See, D'Angelo, his scolding, it comes from frustration, not out of hatred for Wallace, because he is a moral middleman that is trapped between the rules of the game and a faint sense that there is more to life. And in this scene, he reprimands Wallace not only because of the fake money that threatens the business, but because it shows that Wallace is vulnerable. And in the drug trade, vulnerability is what gets you killed. Yet when Bodie and Wallace, when they get into the discussion briefly about Hamilton not being president, then D'Angelo he dismisses it with an irritated shrug. And this moment reveals his despair about the pointlessness of book smarts in their world because he knows or believes that knowing the difference between a president and a founding father won't stop you from getting shot. And the key point in this is that D'Angelo's silence or irritation at Wallace's fact checking and implies that in the moral and economic order of the streets, the truth the truth is powerless. Intelligence, unless it's weaponized for survival, is seen as a luxury. And this moment reflects the existential tension in Nietzschean thought, particularly from On the Genealogy of Morality, where dominant moral systems are created not to nurture, but to dominate. So Wallace's moral education and even historical education is useless in a system that values power over principle. And then we look at Bodie. So Bodie, he represents the raw, the pragmatic logic of the corner boy. And his comment that you heard here, saying that it had a president on it, it's not really a factual statement, but really it's a defense of street logic. Because see, it looked real, and that should be good enough. So his ignorance is not just about Hamilton, but it's about what counts as knowledge in his world. And the key point in this is that Bodie is articulating a value system that prioritizes appearance and results. Because if it looks like a dollar and if it spends like a dollar, then it is a dollar, regardless of historical accuracy. And this is a perfect example of what sociologist Elijah Anderson called the code of the streets, which is the moral world of these kids. It's not really shaped by the schools or the civics classes, but by survival, status, and street credibility. And what makes this exchange so tragic is that Wallace's correction that it's Hamilton, that he's not even a president, it's not really just about showing off his knowledge, but it's about wanting truth to actually matter. It's a child's desperate attempt to ground his world in something real, but no one around him validates this. So D'Angelo, he brushes it off. Bodie ignores it. The game doesn't care. And the key point in this is that Wallace's moment of factual truth is a cry for moral order in a chaotic world. And it's a brief rebellion against the nihilism of the streets. So Wallace's instinct echoes themes from Immanuel Kant, which is a belief in the dignity of truth, of reason, and the moral law within. Yet that Kantian idealism is crushed by the Hobbesian reality that is around him, which is a war of all against all, where might and deception they rule.
Check it. It's simple. It's simple. See this? This the kingpin. All right? And he the man. You get the other dude's king, you got the game. And he trying to get your king too. So you got protected. Now the king, he move one space any direction he damn choose, cause he's the king. Like this, all right? But he ain't got no hustle. But the rest of these motherfuckers on the team, they got his back. And they run so deep, he really ain't gotta do shit.
I like your uncle.
Yeah, like my own. And you see this? It's the queen. She smart, she fierce. She move any way she want, as far as she want. And she is the go get shit done piece.
Remind me of Stringer.
And this over here is the castle. It's like the stash. You move like this and like this.
Dog, stash don't move, man.
Come on, yo, think. How many times we moved the stash house this week? Right? And every time we move the stash, we gotta move a little muscle with it, right? To protect it.
True. You right. All right. What about them little bald-headed bitches right there?
All right, these right here, these are the pawns. They like the soldiers. They move like this, one space forward only, except when they fight. And it's like this. And they like the front lines. They be out in the field.
So how do you get to be the king?
It ain't like that. See, the king, stay the king, all right? Everything stay who he is, except for the pawns. And for pawn, made it all the way down to the other dude's side, you get to be queen. And like I said, the queen ain't no bitch. She got all the moves.
All right, so if I make it to the other end, I win.
If you catch the other dude's king and trap it, then you win.
All right, but if I make it to the end, I'm top dog.
Nah, yo, it ain't like that. Look, the pawns, man, in the game, they get capped quick. They be out the game early.
Unless they some smart ass pawns.
So in this scene, when D'Angelo, when he introduces the game of chess, see Wallace, he leans in, not physically but emotionally, because his interest is piqued, and there is a moment of almost childlike engagement when he says, so how do you get to be the king? So this isn't really just a question about rules; it's a question that is rooted in aspiration. See, Wallace, though only a teenager, he still contains the faint embers of imagination and hope, because his interest in the rules of chess reveals that, at least in this moment, he is willing to pause the survivalist instincts of the corner and open his mind to a new form of structured thinking, a game of strategy, of foresight and consequence. But D'Angelo's answer is brutally honest, which when he says here that the king stay the king. And with that, D'Angelo collapses the space between Wallace's interest in learning and the grim fatalism of the world that they live in. And the message is clear that in this game, your role is fixed, that you can learn the game, you can understand the system, but you can't escape it. So thus, Wallace's first instinct, his first instinct is to ask questions. To learn, it hits a wall. So the moral education, in its ideal form, it encourages growth, upward mobility, and self-actualization. But in the world of The Wire, even the act of learning is corrupted by the inevitability of institutional failure. So what D'Angelo is doing is a form of education, but it's not moral, it's not civic or even liberatory. It's indoctrination masked as mentorship. He uses chess, a game that is often associated with intelligence, discipline, and nobility, to explain the hierarchy of the drug game. And in doing so, he weaponizes knowledge. And the game that could be a metaphor for escape becomes a blueprint for entrapment. And Wallace is not being taught on how to think critically. He's being taught on how to submit strategically. And when D'Angelo, when he explains how pawns, how they might get to the other side and become a queen, now Wallace, he lights up with interest that there is hope in his voice. But Bodie, ever the nihilist, he just kind of like laughs it off a little bit at the very end of it, you know. And when you think about it, because see, there the pure correction it begins, because even if D'Angelo's metaphor hinted at rare transcendence, the group dynamic swiftly shuts it down, and Wallace's flicker of hope is mocked, undercut by the realism of the streets. Thus, the very environment in which Wallace learns ensures that any spark of moral development is extinguished, not violently, but subtly, through social ridicule and the reinforcement of fatalistic norms. And Wallace he represents more potential in the series, because he's the one who still gets disturbed by the violence, who feeds hungry children, who listens, and in this scene, we see that he also still wants to understand things because he seeks logic, he seeks purpose and order, things that he instinctively associates with a game like chess. But The Wire, especially through this scene, reminds us that the environment matters more than the individual will. And moral education, it requires not just a teacher and a student, but a system that nurtures development, rewards thought, and allows transformation. So in Wallace's case, he learns the game, but never the meaning of the game. So his education is incomplete. It's corrupted. He learns the rules of hierarchy, but not the humanity behind them. And what makes this scene devastating in retrospect is that we know what happens to Wallace. His attempt to do the right thing, to testify, to walk away from the game, is really what gets him killed. And this brings the theme full circle, that in a world in where moral education has failed, morality becomes a death sentence. Because learning the game did not empower Wallace, it merely gave him a clearer view of how inescapable it is. So the more he understood, the more doomed he became. And also, while he shows openness to understanding the deeper meanings of the game itself, Bodie, on the other hand, initially mocks the process but quickly becomes intrigued. Still, his takeaway is different because Bodie, he absorbs the tactics, not the tragedy. He begins to see how the game works, but accepts its rules without protest. Thus, Bodie and Wallace become twin outcomes of the same lesson. One internalizes the logic of survival, which that one being Bodie, and the other one attempts to apply conscience and is destroyed by it. And that, of course, it being Wallace. Now, in Christian theology, the martyr dies to expose the sins of the world. And Wallace's death is almost liturgical, a sacrifice, because after his death, D'Angelo spirals deeper into conscience. And even Bodie, even he begins to change, slowly. And Wallace, he becomes a ghost haunting everyone else. And then when it comes to the creative philosophical framework, when it comes to Albert Camus, see Albert Camus, his absurd hero Sisyphus, he rebels by persisting. Wallace rebels by withdrawing. Because in a world with no God, with no justice and no fairness, Camus says we must imagine Sisyphus happy. But what if the hero refuses to push the rock? So Wallace's rejection of the game is a Camusian revolt. But unlike Mersault in The Stranger, Wallace still feels that. So, see, Wallace, he still feels because he is not absurd. He is too meaningful for an absurd world. And the world punishes meaning. So, Wallace, he's not just a casualty, he is the thesis of The Wire, the proof that kindness, youth, and conscience cannot survive when the system demands your soul. He is what Bodie could have been, what D'Angelo feared to be, what Michael suppresses, and what Naaman never has to face. See, he is the moral heartbeat of season one, and the proof that even in the game, there are children. So Wallace is dead, but his absence becomes louder than anyone's presence.
Where's Wallace at? Where's the boy, String? Where's Wallace? That's all I want to know.
Kid, you better think.
Where the fuck is Wallace? Huh? String. String. Look at me. Look at me. Where the fuck is Wallace? Huh? I don't want this Payless wearing motherfucker representing me. I'm gonna get my own man. All right? So just get back in your car and get the fuck back down south.
All right, you stupid motherfucker. You made your decision.
Yeah, I made my decision. Where's Wallace at? Where the fuck is Wallace? Where's Wallace, String? String! Where the fuck is Wallace?